Ladies and gentlemen, today we stand at a historic crossroads, not just for France, but for Europe as a whole. The collapse of the French government marks a pivotal moment in the political landscape, one that carries profound implications both domestically and internationally. This is not merely the fall of a single administration. It represents the culmination of years of mounting challenges, frustrations, and growing dissatisfaction within the French public. For those of us observing from the outside, it may seem like just another political crisis. But let us take a closer look, because what's happening in France is part of a larger, troubling trend that is sweeping across Europe and the world. The events leading to the downfall of the French government have roots deep in France's political, economic, and social structures. In recent years, the country has been grappling with increasingly severe issues: economic stagnation, rising unemployment, and deepening social divides. The government's failure to effectively address these challenges has triggered a series of protests, strikes, and civil unrest that have left many questioning the competence of those in power. To understand the significance of this moment, we must first acknowledge the state of the nation. France, one of Europe's largest and most influential countries, has been struggling with economic stagnation. The French people, particularly the working and middle classes, have been hit hard by rising living costs and unemployment. This, combined with an ongoing sense of political alienation, has created a perfect storm of discontent. The government, led by President Emmanuel Macron, found itself caught between the demands for sweeping reforms and the resistance from various segments of society. Macron's push for pension reforms, which many saw as unfairly targeting the most vulnerable, was one of the primary flashpoints. The Yellow Vest protests, which erupted in 2018, were a clear indication that the government's policies were increasingly out of touch with the needs of ordinary citizens. Macron's promises of change and renewal have been met with skepticism, as his administration has struggled to deliver on those lofty goals. And now, here we are, a government in crisis. The resignation or removal of key figures has exposed deep divisions within the French political system. But it's important to understand that this collapse is not just about the incompetence of individual leaders. It is the result of a system that has failed to adapt to the realities of modern France. The gap between the government and the people has grown wider, and the trust that once held the system together has all but disappeared. But let's not be mistaken. This crisis in France is not an isolated event. It is part of a much larger pattern across Europe. In recent years, we've seen a rise in populism, nationalism, and anti-establishment sentiment in many European countries. From the Brexit referendum in the UK to the rise of populist movements in Italy, Hungary, and Poland, Europe is grappling with a growing disillusionment with traditional political structures. France's political collapse is just the latest and most dramatic example of this widespread trend. Why is this happening? Why are people increasingly turning away from the traditional parties and politicians? The answer lies in the disconnect between governments and the people they serve. Economic inequality, social dislocation, and a sense of powerlessness have left many citizens feeling abandoned by the system. They see the rich getting richer, while the working class struggles to make ends meet. They see promises of change being broken, and they no longer trust the politicians who continue to make empty promises. The collapse of the French government may be a wake-up call. It sends a clear message that the status quo cannot continue. People are demanding more than just reform. They want a complete transformation of how politics works in their country. They want more transparency, more accountability, and a system that works for them, not just for the elites. This is not just a French issue. It's a European issue, and it's a global issue. So, what comes next for France? This is the crucial question. In the short term, we may see political instability, with competing factions fighting for power. We may also see more protests, as the frustration of the people continues to simmer. But there is also an opportunity here. This crisis could serve as a turning point, an opportunity for France to reimagine its political system and address the real concerns of its citizens. It's clear that there is a demand for change, not just in France, but across Europe. This is a moment for reflection and action. Governments must listen to the people, address their concerns, and work to build a system that is inclusive and responsive. If they don't, we may see more collapses like the one in France. Political instability, disillusionment, and growing inequality are not problems that can be ignored. They must be addressed head-on, or we risk a future where the foundations of democracy itself are threatened. In conclusion, the fall of the French government is a critical moment in history. It is not just about the end of a particular administration, but about the end of an era. An era where traditional political structures, disconnected from the people, are no longer sustainable. The French people have spoken, and their message is clear. They want change. Whether this leads to a brighter future for France or further fragmentation will depend on how the country, and Europe, responds to the challenges ahead. Thank you.